5-paragraph essays. Yay! What is this video going to be about? It's going to be a review of the 5-paragraph essay formats with examples. We're going to talk about common issues that I noticed in your papers, and I'm going to explain how your heading should look like. That is the top part of the paper, where you put your name, class period, and all that. Well, you know that a 5-paragraph essay needs to have an introduction. The introduction needs to have 3 things in it: a hook, a thesis, and 3 main ideas. I noticed that many of the papers that I received, probably about half, either didn't have a hook or the hook wasn't really a hook. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a bad hook, and you tell me why this is a bad hook. Or a bad introduction, sorry. In this paper, I will tell you about my dad. My dad is the coolest in the world. I love my dad. 3 things about my dad that I like are: 1. He has a cool job. 2. He is fun to hang out with. 3. He is really strong. Well, there's a few problems here. There's no hook. Instead of telling me what you're going to talk about, just go ahead and say it, or write it. Instead of telling me, in this paper I will tell you about my dad, just go ahead and say it. 3 things about my dad are: the 3 main ideas should not be listed like this. And I'm going to show you why this is wrong in a minute. Now, hook. Hooks are not the thesis in question form. For example, have you ever wanted to go to Hawaii? That is not really a hook. Do you love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Again, not a hook. Do you know my cousin Bill? Isn't he a great guy? Not a hook. This is a good hook. A hook should be an interesting story, quote, fact. In this case, since we're talking about dads, I wrote a nice story involving a dad. For example, hook. One summer, I was really bored. I was really sad because I figured that this was the time to have fun, and here I was, wasting my time staring at the ceiling. My dad noticed that when he came back from work and asked if I wanted to go to the park with him to play ball. We spent the whole evening together. That was a great day, and one that I will not forget soon. That is a good hook. Now, thesis. Instead of saying, I'm going to talk about my dad, you can say something like, my dad is one of my favorite people in the world, and I love telling people about him. 3 main ideas. Instead of saying, 1. My dad has a cool job. 2. My dad is blah blah blah. We can say, he has a really interesting job, and I think that is because he's such a fun person to be with. Anyone will want to hire him. Also, he's really strong, so much that he surprises me sometimes. See? I said 3 main ideas without telling you that those are the 3 main ideas. It's done in a way called indirectly. So let's put it together. This is our introduction. So pause the video, read it. That's what introduction looks like. A good introduction. I know it's 2 paragraphs. Sometimes it's okay to write 1 introduction in 2 paragraphs. That's okay. If you don't have a hook this long, of course, you're not going to need 2 paragraphs. Okay, what's in the body? The 3 main ideas that you put in the introduction will be the 3 paragraphs of the body. Make sure that you include examples, illustrations. Those are not pictures, those are just stories, things like that. Experiences, clarifications, and explanations when necessary. If you're going to talk about something very technical of something that you like, don't assume that everybody knows what you're talking about. So clarify and explain. Okay? Your body paragraphs shouldn't be a laundry list, but well-developed ideas. For example, things that you like to do with your dad, and then you just tell me 25 things that you like to do with your dad. Choose 1 or 2 and expand on them. Tell me stories, illustrate, things like that. There you go. This is an example of a well-developed paragraph that one of our students wrote. So pause the video, read it. We are going to the next part. Conclusion. The conclusion is probably the hardest part because it requires the writer to repeat the thesis, main ideas, and to come up with a concluding sentence without sounding repetitive. It's very tricky. Bad example of a conclusion. In this paper, I talked about my dad. I talked about how he has a cool job, how he is fun to hang out with, and how he is strong. I hope that you learn to like my dad just like I do. Have a nice day. Now let's try again. As I said before, my dad is one of my favorite people in the world. I'm sure other people who know him like him too. That's why he always has such interesting jobs. I'm sure that the fact that he is so fun to be with only helps. I'm also sure that his strength has been a good topic of conversation more than once. My dad is my greatest hero, and I hope that one day I get to be as great a dad as he is. Now, these are some of the common issues that I found with the papers. People keep starting sentences with and, but, so. Some of those are okay. Like once in a while, it's okay to start a sentence with an and. But try to not do this. Why? Because conjunctions, those words are called conjunctions, and they are used to join two sentences together. It's acceptable to use them once in a while, but try not to do it, please. The conjunctions are and, but, because, so, or etc. Common issues with papers. Tone. Essays are not like emails to friends or notes to friends. They are formal and they need to sound professional. Do not use emoticons, smiley faces. That is very inappropriate or improper in a paper. Don't rant like you talk. Sometimes it helps, but most of the time it makes you sound too informal and it takes away from your credibility. People will not take your paper seriously at all. For example, avoid slang. Words like cool, awesome, stuff. Conversational tones. Do not begin sentences with well, so. Don't talk directly to the reader. Never use you, and never ever write I'm going to tell you about. It's acceptable to use I if it is a personal or an opinion paper, but not in other formal essays like persuasive essays. Okay, punctuation. Review your rules for punctuation, please. I've seen a lot of punctuation mistakes. Make sure you don't have run-on sentences or sentences that are too short and therefore don't make sense. A good thing to do is after you finish your paper, reread it. See if it makes sense. See if you're leaving words out or you put in the comma in the wrong place. Do you see anything wrong with this? I like to swim, so I go to the pool every day. In the summer, I will go twice a day, but I also have to do other things. There's no comments or periods, so you can make a pause when you read. If you need to make a pause when you read, put a punctuation mark. Avoid using exclamation points too much. Exclamation points are used for strong feelings, so if you use them 5 or 6 times in a paragraph, you're not really expressing strong feelings anymore. Just replace them with periods. And don't use more than one punctuation mark at a time. See, I did it. Wrong. Don't use that, please. Sometimes when students are about to set off a list, they use colons. This is not necessary, and in fact, it is grammatically incorrect. For example, my favorite basketball players are, and then you put a column there. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and LeBron James. Don't do that. Get rid of that. You don't need it, and it's wrong. When I correct papers, in order to make my job easier, I will highlight 2 words and write comma in the notes. In this case, the comma needs to go between those 2 highlighted words. That's what I mean. For example, you will need bread, peanut butter, and jam. Of course, you need a comma between bread and peanut butter, so I'm going to highlight those 2, put a note that says, comma. You can look at your papers. I'm sure I did it in your paper. Common issues with papers. Numbers. From the MLA Handbook. This is the book that teaches us how to write essays correctly. Numbers in 1 or 2 words need to be spelled. For example, 5, 20, 500, 1 million, 5,000, etc. See, they're 1 or 2 words. Write them down. If they are more than 2 words, write the numeral, like 123. See, there's 3 words, so you need to write the number. You can also write the number for units of measurements, for example, pounds, ounces, liters, percent, etc. You need to write the number for time, like it's 5 p.m., for dates, for addresses, for fractions, and if you're citing something that, like a book, for example, where the title is a number, then you have to write the number, like the numeral. For large numbers, you can combine spelling and numerals, like in 4.5 million. You can combine, it's okay. Ranges. For example, I have tons of papers that say something like, I go to practice 5-7 on Mondays. That is incorrect. You actually have to write, I go to practice from 5 to 7 on Mondays. There's a lot of other mistakes, but these are the most common ones. Now I'm going to explain about the paper headings. This is how your papers will have to look from now on. even if you handwrite them. Actually, you can only handwrite first or second draft. The final draft needs to be typed. And if you can't make it to the library because you don't have a computer or something, come to my classroom and do it here. Okay, so you're going to have your first and last name, always. Your class period. And make sure that you have the right class period. I have tons of people writing 4B when they're in 4A or something like that. And the date. This has to go to the left, see? Then your title has to be centered. You don't need to color it, you don't need to underline it, bold it, make it prettier, nothing. It needs to be just like that in the center, boring like that. Then indent the first line of the paragraph. You can do this by pressing the tab key on your computer. Then go to the next and double space the whole paper, including the heading. So this has to be double spaced too. Now, if you're not sure how to double space, let me explain it here. If you have Word, it's really easy. All you have to do is press Ctrl A to select everything, or just go ahead and click and use your mouse to select everything. Then go to this little thing here and press 2. That will double space. Or right click on the text, go to paragraph, and where it says line spacing, put double. Boom, you got it. Now, if you don't have Word, like say you have OpenOffice, it's very similar. Select everything with Ctrl A, or by click and then drag. Right click, paragraph, and where it says spacing, line spacing, go to double, and you got it. Do not press enter after the end of the line. If you have a Mac, I am sure there's an option like that in whatever program you use, but this is how you do it in Word and OpenOffice. How to capitalize titles. Okay, your titles have to be capitalized in a special way. This is also from the MLA and from actually all the rules of grammars. Always capitalize the first and last word of the title. Always capitalize important words like nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Never capitalize, unless of course they're the first or last word in a sentence. Never capitalize articles, a, an, and the. Never capitalize prepositions, and never capitalize conjunctions. And that's it for this presentation. Thank you for watching and happy writing!